Welcome back to another episode of Revenue Optimization Radio, hosted by Patrick Morrissey, Chief Marketing Officer at Altify. Revenue Optimization Radio is brought to you by Altify, the sales transformation company. We believe the only way to unlock sustained growth is to deliver predictable revenue. Delivering insights, thought leadership, and the best practice on how to improve sales velocity. From the one man, maybe the only man who knows how to do all of that, at least this morning, Patrick Morrissey. Hey, Patrick.
So hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Revenue Optimization Radio. If all goes according to plan, this will be part two, the first time I've done a two-part series, in this case with somebody who I'm a huge fan of, who can talk very deeply about what good looks like in sales, but maybe more importantly, what does good look like in content? And so I asked Stacy to stick around for part two of a conversation because we trended at the end of the last podcast into a conversation that hits right in the middle of revenue operations, and that's the intersection of sales and marketing. So we'll come back to that in a second. But before I get too far over my skis and moving too fast here, Stacy, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Pat. And I have seen you on your skis, and you never are too far over your skis. You're an amazing skier, Pat.
That's why I can shred a green like nobody's business, Stacy. So I appreciate that. And you, my friend, know a lot about content, and you are the CEO and actually the founder of a company called the Content Bureau. Give us a little bit of background on you, and for those who didn't catch the last podcast, talk to us about who is the Content Bureau.
We are a marketing agency that produces high-quality B2B marketing content for large tech and financial services companies like Atlassian, Autodesk, eBay, Deloitte, SAP, PayPal, RSA Security, Silicon Valley Bank. And our clients tend to produce a lot of content all year round. So these are people we're really fortunate to work with who are constantly innovating, constantly trying new things, what is working, what is not working, measuring, and then having us iterate.
Well, and you just listed off some pretty serious brands, some very sophisticated marketing and sales organizations, at scale. And I want to drill into that a little bit because in the last podcast, one of the things that you were talking about as we wrapped up, when I asked you a question about keys to, building a foundation for a content program that's going to help sell, is your suggestion was get the sales team, get the field team involved and get their input, not just with the high quality decks, but also what are the assets, what are the case studies, what are they using, what are they promoting? And right away, I couldn't decide whether we should just full on arm wrestle around this or we should just debate that a little bit, because I can tell you as somebody who's a recovering sales leader who now runs a marketing organization, there is nothing that can be more challenging for somebody trying to develop content and trying to put, a message or build a category or bring stories to life than asking a sales rep what they think. So give me the good news, bad news about that, because I think on the whole, feedback is great. Salespeople have the hardest jobs in the world, and I have immense amount of empathy for what they do. But I also have and my friends in marketing have a lot of frustrating vignettes we can talk about when salespeople want to give feedback to marketing about content. Give me your perspective.
Well, we really love it when we get access to salespeople when we're in the beginning of building great marketing content. So what we really want to know is what's working with customers. What are they saying? What are the messages? What are the assets that are really performing for them? And that anecdotal data needs to be combined with data that we get from our technology, our marketing analytics.
Sure.
So we can see which assets are getting the most engagement, the most downloads. How is our content actually performing in terms of metrics? But then if the salespeople are using different things or they're hearing things from customers, we really would love to be able to capture all of that data, bring it together and say, okay, let's do more of this type of asset. Let's do less of that type. And then we just keep measuring and we keep getting feedback from them. And also we love interviewing reps as part of the development of content, especially if There are new messages that we're trying out. They could have an important voice. They give us great quotes sometimes, and they also refer us to customers that are loving the products, and that leads to great case studies. So we want to be best friends with the field, really, as marketers. And in recent interviews with some of my customers, it's very clear that we need to be in complete alignment with how we're measuring sales and marketing.
Yep.
So we need to be tying our metrics, our marketing metrics, to sales quotas. We need to be directly helping them drive revenue.
And there's the broader notion I want to come back to about revenue marketing, as opposed to, I don't know what everybody thought we were doing before we were trying to drive revenue.
We were just having fun.
Yeah, we were just
producing pretty things, Pat.
Glossy brochures. But your insight there, though, is interesting because I can't remember too many times in my career where an agency, a writer, somebody on the strategy or the content development side or the website folks or whoever, insert name of vendor and resource here, has talked about engaging the sales team as part of their interview process. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I thought I heard you say is, hey, we want to talk to the field sales reps to get not just the input on what's good, but also as we're thinking about things like case studies, you want to hear from the rep or the revenue team that was part of executing for that customer.
I mean, we'd love to have it. We don't always get it. We often, the subject matter expert for the content we produce is typically someone in product marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can get a rep as well, it's really helpful. We love for them to feel like they're part of the process because then they're more likely to use the asset as well.
Yes.
And that's really key. I mean, why do we produce all this stuff if it's not going to be excitedly shared by the field? We want them to love the content we're producing and to feel engaged with it themselves, or they're not going to share it with their customers. And then why do we even spend money on that thing?
Well, exactly. And I think the excitement factor and the feeling like you contributed, like the aha of marketing, particularly in a technology construct where I live, is you want everybody to believe that they're in marketing. You want them to be brand ambassadors. You want them to be on message. You want everybody in big and small ways every day to be communicating the unique value in what your company does. In real life, that's a little bit harder. And you talked about was the whole sales reps need a high fidelity presentation. They need a standard set of messaging because PowerPoint's not going away anytime soon, whether it's in a presentation context or it's the email me the details of give me some more context of who you are and what you guys do. But the truth in the room is that sales reps do a lot of roll their own PowerPoint.
Yeah, they do.
Any tips or tricks for how do you bring that together? How do you merge we want to get everybody on message with trying to understand the field realities of how do you get salespeople comfortable with the material or get them actually using the assets to help them drive the sale?
So you give them a deck that's a PDF that they can't tweak. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Excellent. Lock it down. Sold.
That's actually great for channel, though. PDFs for channel is perfect because you really don't want people outside your company tweaking with your marketing content.
Yep.
But back to the reps, again, the more you can engage the people that are going to be using the asset in the development of the asset, the better that asset will be. While it's really important for marketing to own the message and to make sure that the visuals and everything's on brand and looks gorgeous, it is really critical that the key points that sales makes when they are in front of customers are included in that deck. So even just having one key rep that is an evangelist and that will tell the other reps, hey, I had something to do with this. Do you guys like it? You should use this because I helped with it. And I think that makes the quality of the deck better. Yep. And you're more likely to have people use it.
Absolutely. And in your experience, talking to sales leaders, talking to sales reps, what are the assets that they find to be most valuable?
Everybody loves a great landing page where they can refer customers straight to a page that is really rich. I had a customer recently tell me that they revamped a page on their site that was basically a static, boring, ugly page, and they made it super interactive. They added all these drop downs. So if you're in a certain region, you could choose your region, then you could dig down and look for certain types of content from your role.
Uh-huh.
And it's a beautiful page. It has a really high value core asset on it, which is the survey of trends in your industry that you need to know about. or something really grabby like that, or you just wouldn't want to miss that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they turned this boring, ugly page into this really highly effective, customized page. And, reps can direct their customers there and see, this is the kind of quality marketing content that we're sharing with you.
Right.
And what did she say? It's been a quintillion times more effective than it was before.
Nice.
Because they made it interactive and longer. Frankly, it's gorgeous. And all of those things, again, back to the Marie Kondo, it's got to spark joy. If you have 5 fantastic landing pages, that's way better than having 100 moderately attractive old pieces of content on there. Take it down, man.
Make it go away.
Make it go away. Make it tidy and efficient and beautiful. And it's going to reflect much better on your brand. And it's going to be a lot easier for salespeople to access the content that's working too.
100%. And let's actually go down that path for a second, because we didn't get into it in the last podcast. We talked more about content for external audiences. But back to where we started with the notion of salespeople and what they think they want, what they need, and what's going to help them. Arguably, rule number 1 when you're thinking about content is, who is the audience and what do they need? Which inevitably leads to sales enablement, sales playbooks, sales programs, sales stuff, and a whole raft of content. Flipping the lens around for a second, when you think about internal use content, and particularly in that, sales or anybody who's customer facing, what do they really need, and how do you think about this idea of sales content, sales playbooks, et cetera?
I think that messaging is probably the most important thing sales needs, because it's, again, the exact language we want to use with customers about our products and how they're differentiated from others.
Right.
I think case studies and use cases would be next in priority order. Case studies being specific examples of customers that have used this product. Put those right up at top, because people, when they can read 2 or 3 case studies, they really understand what your product is doing for customers. And then use cases can be specific examples of where within a business this product can be used and what it's doing for that team or that line of business. So this is less industry specific, more role specific.
Yep.
It's a little deeper, a little more detailed, those kinds of things. And then obviously just any metrics you can give, all that analyst data that marketers love to look at. Salespeople, it's great to see, where are we in the magic quadrant? What are the analysts saying about our products versus competitive products? The more we can give them, that's the actual third-party validated data, they can drop those little tidbits in their sales conversations, and that's really high impact.
Yeah, and the one I would add to your list, because I'm in violent agreement with you about messaging, about case studies, about use cases, and then the metrics or the numbers, is the ability, and maybe it's implied in the case study element, of being able to tell the first person story. And I find all the time when I'm talking to reps that they're great about regurgitating the material, and sometimes they're not necessarily so good at either articulating the first person anecdote that goes with that or their own first person experience. I'm fortunate at Altify that I'm surrounded by a lot of very seasoned salespeople, a chunk of whom have been sales leaders elsewhere, but they come with real domain expertise, and they've seen the film at scale, and they know what good looks like, and they can talk about very personally what does good look like. And I think sometimes they get a little bit tripped up of trying to repeat the message and tell the PowerPoint story and articulate all 7 use cases, as opposed to, let me give you an example from XYZ sales leader who was trying to solve this problem, and I worked with them, we worked with them, and then here's what happened.
It's like your own personal case study.
Yes.
And I would add too, we can't forget the call to action, right? What is it that we're directing that person to do? What are we inviting them to do at the end of our visit? We need to be really comfy with all the other resources that are available. So what additional content?
Right. And there's always a need for more. Do you have a basic, table stakes level of content that you think salespeople need when they're in terms of servicing their customers? Because one of my personal beliefs is that salespeople exist to ask for things they don't actually need. And so I'm always trying to bridge the gap. And Lance Walter, who was on the podcast a while ago, he talked about having empathy for salespeople and really understanding either the question behind the question Or how can we help a sales rep solve his or her ask or contextualize it in a way that helps solve the problem, even if we don't give them exactly what they want? And hopefully by association, we get an asset that's good, not just for rep A, but for rep 200 and rep 2000.
I think that it just needs to be really thorough.
Yep.
Everything needs to be there. When's the last time you bought anything important, like a new pair of skis, without totally researching online? We really are B2B customers. They're humans. They're shopping like B2C, right?
Yep.
They're doing a ton of research before they make a decision. We need to have that complete story online so that they can do all of their research before they even pick up the phone and talk to a rep.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And I actually want to pause right there and pay the bills and do a little commercial break, and then we'll pick up the conversation about sales reps and content and what good looks like at scale with Stacy Crinks, the CEO of the Content Bureau.
You're only as successful as your customers, and that demands the need for an exceptional sales execution, revenue retention, and customer success. The challenge for most sales leaders and their teams, however, is that their sales process just doesn't match how their customers buy. Sustained growth isn't possible because the revenue team isn't aligned with customers and prospects. With Altify's sales transformation solutions, companies can deliver predictable revenue growth. Yes, we said predictable revenue growth. They can also acquire and retain customers, and they can collaborate across the revenue team to qualify and win new business while delivering value that unlocks cross-sell and upsell opportunities. Built natively on the Salesforce platform, Altify helps salespeople, managers, and executives achieve sustained revenue growth. They help accelerate sales performance for Autodesk, Comcast, GE, Honeywell, Salesforce, Tableau, and United Healthcare. They can do the same for you. Visit Altify.com, just like it sounds, Altify, Altify.com.
And welcome back, everyone. We're talking about fun, skiing, and content, and better selling with Stacy Crinks, the CEO of the Content Bureau. Stacy, we just broke off a second ago. You were talking about using an example of me as a consumer, all of us as consumers. I think that is one of the big challenges with content, and we talk about this all the time, is for how personalized our consumer lives are. And I can buy what I want from Amazon, and I can tailor my musical tastes on Spotify, and I can structure video from now till eternity on Netflix. In a B2B context, it's rarely that way. There's much less personalization. There is much less quality. There's much less insight about me and what's important. So when you're thinking about developing content for your clients, and you listed off a whole group of big, well-known brands from Silicon Valley Bank to SAP to Deloitte, how do you help structure content in a way that's going to really help them break through and is consumable and personalized to what their clients need?
It's a really tough situation, and B2B has absolutely not caught up to B2C in this domain. We are marketing to human beings that are used to having incredible experiences. It's not just that they're loving the content on Amazon.com. They're loving the whole experience, from the first UX to the fast delivery to the fabulous customer service when you want to return something. And I do think that content is a piece of this whole customer experience that the CMO really needs to own. Not something we could talk about or not. This concept of making sure that everybody in the organization is entirely aware of the customer's needs and focused on their needs. We're not just focused on pre-sale marketing, which has traditionally been marketing's realm, the funnel. Customers are having to renew their subscription every year in a lot of our tech world now.
Yep.
So we're constantly marketing post-sale. And then during this, we're trying to encourage adoption and use, and we're looking for net promoter scores. And there are all these amazing ways of ensuring that customers stay engaged with the product. Marketing, it's really gotten a lot broader than it used to be, because the marketing experience needs to continue the entire time you're working with a customer.
I couldn't agree with you more. And in fact, one of the things that we're doing internally is I'm taking some ebooks and some other content that we have and just giving the digital files to customers so they can put them in their own brand template and use whatever's applicable to help them with their user communities. I couldn't agree more strongly. And it was something that was engineered one-off for a customer that is now sort of taken on a life of its own. In the subscription-based world, the education and the enablement and the I'm paying attention to you and you're important to me elements that are, foundational marketing never stop. But I want to spend a couple minutes before we sign off on this back to the idea of selling, because you're the CEO, which means by definition, you're responsible for building and driving the business. This is now 20 years of the Content Bureau. So not only have you beat the odds, you've beat them by quite a shot. When you think about what's required to continue to grow and scale the business, the approach that you take in terms of finding clients, how do you think about your own personal sales strategy, both as the CEO and as the face of the Content Bureau?
Funny, I am the only salesperson and I've been the only salesperson for 20 years. And that is a blessing and a curse. I think my favorite part of my job is just having relationships that have lasted and lasted and lasted. And I think many of my clients have become friends. And then I've had friends become clients. I have friends refer business to us. It kind of all goes together at this point. And I really think that we are entirely about the relationship. Our clients know that we would do anything for them to help them be successful. And we're really about, don't tell the company this. We're all about the person, right? We want our clients to be so successful, the people, that they get promoted, that they get kudos, that they are seen as highly productive marketers that produce the most spectacular marketing content. And other people look at them and say, how did that team do that? Where did they get that gorgeous piece of content? Well, no one has to know. The Content Bureau was behind the whole thing.
Yep.
So I think just being entirely focused on human beings and making sure that they are so happy with us. And then we can have fun too. I try to have really long lunches and dinners and thought leadership. We do a lot of lectures with our clients and go to the Battery and hang out and talk about stuff that's not work.
Yep.
And just, we're all humans. We want connection. I think if your service provider is also somebody that you like and you want to spend time with, and you like the team that's working on the content too, we have these beautiful relationships that have lasted. And Autodesk is a 19-year client. SAP is a 15-year client. PayPal is a 13-year client. So these are companies that come to us almost every month with new needs. And we often know the content better than the junior marketers that come on. And we are helping to train the folks that are brought in. And we do that with total humility and love. We're not coming in as this bossy expert, but as, hey, let's show you all this source content that we use. So we really try to be that helper to our clients. And I think I'm getting all mushy right now, but I do.
That's okay. We can hug it out. It's going to be fine.
I do love my job so much. And I think it has to be because we have the very best team in the world. And by the way, the team also has been with us forever and ever. And people just don't leave because they love our clients. And you can just tell the quality of the work reflects the fact that we have these teams that stay together for many years.
That response is interesting to me on a couple levels. One is because I worked with a CEO years ago who came out of a Big Four consulting background. And he used to talk about you should think of clients as a 100-year relationship, and that should inform every kind of series of behaviors that you have. And secondarily, I would assert that part of the key to ongoing success is the notion that you talked about in terms of both approaching it with humility and love. I have been surprised in doing this podcast how often the notion of humility or empathy or really trying to understand the people element differentiate the world-class sales and marketing crowd from everybody else who's just trying to make a number.
That's interesting that you say that. I thought that would be kind of a little too personal to reveal, but I do feel like our team is super connected and our team loves our clients, and they would jump through rings of fire to do what our clients need for them to be successful. And then in turn, our clients feel, I think, this sort of attachment to the team that works on their content. And it just is this beautiful relationship. And I'm really grateful for it. And I wouldn't be doing anything else.
Well, and particularly from a technology background, that track record is astonishing because there are very few people who work at one organization, much less work for a single organization for more than a decade in technology. And you just clipped off, 3 straight away. So kudos to you and kudos to the team.
Thank you so much. Yeah, a lot of it is this amazing team. They really are exceptional.
So last question for you. When you talked last time about, or I'd ask you the question about a great sales or a revenue leader, some of the characteristics of them. When you think about the characteristics of a great writer, or folks that have worked here or work with clients, or maybe it's the client side of this that's inputting the writing, give me an example or give me a rule of thumb, something that sticks out to you that really is the hallmark of somebody who is great at writing and producing content.
So the best writers that I have encountered are people who know the customer so intimately that they either have been the customer or they have hung out with the customer. They know how the customer talks. They know what the customer's worries are. They know what their office is like, and they write in a voice that meets that customer where that customer is. We have written developer marketing. You cannot be flowery and use big words and be all smug and marketing-ish with developers. They absolutely hate that. If you're writing to an IT buyer, it's an entirely different voice than a line of business pharmaceutical executive who's just trying to be more efficient and get some great data that she can use to make decisions. So really the most important thing is knowing the customer and then being able to write with confidence about the product. So having great knowledge of what you're marketing, it takes a while. It's the rare brand new marketer that's going to nail it.
Yep.
I think experience really does make a difference in, and then the other little secret trick of the Content Bureau, which I will reveal to you here, Pat, because you're my good friend, is that you never want to just have one writer on a piece. So even the shortest asset, we always use a writer and an editor. Everything that I write myself, everything that anybody produces at the Content Bureau is writer plus editor. Even social copy. I know that sounds crazy. Editing is the secret bullet. So magic bullet, what is it?
Well, you're the content person. You call it whatever you want. It's your IP.
It's all of that. It's magic. It's important. We consider editing to be absolutely critical. Literally everything we write has an editor on it. And sometimes the editor will look at something 2 or 3 times. And until the writer and editor love it, our customer doesn't see it. And so many companies skip this step and they just have a single writer doing something.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to mess up a short piece. I mean, if you have one writer on social copy, it's probably not going to have a lot of typos in it, but your white paper, your, any asset that can use writer, editor, graphic designer working together, you proof it after the designer's done with the same editor, it's going to be a much better piece than if you tried to have one person do the whole thing.
Couldn't agree with you more.
So those are my secrets.
That is, in fact, I think that might be the first time we've broken through the barrier of getting commercial trade level secrets on the podcast. So I thank you so much for leaving us on a high note. If people want to get a hold of you, get some more access, insight, help in developing content programs, how can they get a hold of you?
Just go to our website. It's contentbureau.com. And thanks so much for having me. It was really fun.
You bet. Thanks so much, Stacey. Have a fantastic day.
You've been listening to another episode of Revenue Optimization Radio, brought to you by Altify, right here on the Funnel Radio Network for at-work listeners like you.